and out of 100 there are always 30-40 questions which you can solve with your basic knowledge, and if you are able to solve them, I think then you can actually gain the confidence, and then that would eventually help you. But people who are watching, I think for them it's important that you practice CSAT, you practice the PYQs, you practice the reading comprehensions, because CSAT is becoming tougher every year. When you read the newspaper, it's not only about the information that you are getting, but you might also get good examples which you can use in your answer writing as well.
Hello viewers, today we have one of the brightest stars of UPSC 2023 result this year. He hails from the city of Lucknow, completed his graduation from IIIT Hyderabad and pursued masters from the same college. Through his great dedication and determination, he is able to score 394 rank this year in his 5th attempt. I welcome you. Hello Dhruv, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So from aspirant to officer, what has changed?
I think the biggest change is that now it feels a sense of responsibility, that now I'm entering into a professional career where I would be given a lot of opportunities to work for the government, and that one responsibility has made a person, and it transforms a person from an aspirant to an officer.
So Dhruv, tell us about your experience when you saw your name in the list. How did you feel at that point of time?
I think the first expression that I had was of a relief, because it's been a very long journey for me from 2019 to now 2024. So after relief, then there was immense joy, not just with me, but with everyone in my family. Seeing my parents happy, seeing my sisters, my grandparents happy, I think that was the most beautiful moment of my life.
So Dhruv, you already said that journey was long. So what triggered you to venture into this endeavor?
The first and the biggest inspiration has been my father, because he's also a government servant. He's in railways. And after that, I feel that this particular service, the civil services, it attracts the best of the talent in the country. So it is one of the most prestigious. So I always had this in my mind that I want to try it for once, and these two things have been the biggest inspiration for me.
So Dhruv, can you tell us something about your journey? First attempt, second attempt, where did you see the difficulty was? How did you proceed and other things?
So I started my journey back in 2019 when I enrolled in Vision IS in the weekend batch. From there, I have been preparing, and throughout COVID, I prepared. And I think for me, the most difficult stage or the biggest roadblock has been prelims, because I have given attempts in 2020, 21, 22, and 23, and in 20 and 21, I was not able to clear prelims. But then, putting in more effort, I was able to clear in 2022 and 23. And I think prelims has been one of the most difficult stage for me, and I think it's also one of the most difficult stage, considering the amount of competition and the amount of and now with
Unpredictability also. You cannot predict the pattern of the exam. This year also we saw that students were preparing for something else. When they sit in the exam, they find that the paper was different. So you might have also felt it. What was your experience on the D-Day?
the first thing was that when I actually saw that the options have changed, so like it was like a certain, I'll not say panic, but it was a certain, like, I was taken aback that okay, now I have to know each and every statement that are there in the question, and that actually made it a very difficult part. However, whenever you look at the paper and if you just scan through it once, you will always see that there are certain easy questions that you can target, and out of 100 there are always 30-40 questions are uh, which you can solve with your basic knowledge, and if you are able to solve them, I think then you can actually gain the confidence, and then that would eventually help you to solve even those questions which you are not not 100% sure, but then they can actually help you to solve it further.
So Dhruv, you were not able to clear the first stage in the first attempt only. What was the change in strategy this time?
So, in my 2020 attempt, I realized that I made a very fundamental mistake, that I did not solve PYQs beforehand. And I think that is something which everyone should remember, that PYQs are non-negotiable. You have to do them. So, and the other mistake which I made in my first attempt was that I was giving the mock tests, but I never really analyzed them in the way that they should be done. So I was just solving them, and I never invested that time which I should have given to understand the question, understand the basic concept which is behind there. And I think that were the two mistakes which I actually made in my first two attempts, where I missed out on prelims. Apart from this, there are certain other non academic things also, because you are giving such an exam. There is always a pressure. You always have that kind of an like one night before the exam, you are not able to sleep, and that actually impacts your performance in the exam as well. If you don't have the correct sleeping pattern in before your exam, it can impact your performance. Yes, absolutely. So these two things, apart from that, revising my basic stuff again and again, practicing questions, and then looking at that where I made the mistake, I think, and looking at the PYQs, looking at the options that the UPSC has given, and then reading about them, uh, searching about them on internet, uh, trying to frame the questions on my own. I think that were the major changes which I made, which eventually helped me to clear prelims in 2022.
Dhruv, CSAT has become one of the greatest hurdle in prelim stage. How did you deal with CSAT?
So I actually come from a technical background, because I've done my B.Tech and masters, and I was always of this opinion that okay, I'll be able to do maths questions and I should actually focus on them more. However, the 2023 attempt was an eye opener, because when I started solving the CSAT paper, I realized that in the first 30 minutes I was only able to solve three or four questions only. And at that time, I had to make a change, and I actually went for the English comprehension part, and that eventually helped me. So for me, CSAT, before my prelims, I used to practice PYQs, and only from those, only from the PYQs only. So I used to solve like uh, papers from the last 3-4 years I've solved, and that eventually helped me in my actual attempt. And because I am from a master's background where I've done my research, so I have that habit of reading research papers, and also reading comprehensions, which eventually helped me. But people who are watching, I think for them it's important that you practice CSAT, you practice the PYQs, you practice the reading comprehensions, because CSAT is becoming tougher every year. And last year was an eye opener for everyone, even for people who are from technical background, that you need to be good in not only maths but also in English comprehension if you want to clear that exam.
Yes, so one needs to check his strengths and weakness, and accordingly one need to prepare for CSAT. So Dhruv, current affairs is one of the important aspect that one need to prepare for UPSC. What was your strategy related to current affairs?
For me, current affairs was always that I wanted to read the newspaper. There is always a question between whether you should read the newspapers or you should read the magazines that we have. I was clear from the beginning that I want to read the newspaper, because it helps me. Because when you read the newspaper, it actually gives you a context of the news that you are reading. It gives you a background about that as well. Apart from this, when you read the newspaper, it's not only about the information that you are getting, but you might also get good examples which you can use in your answer writing as well. And when you have a daily habit of reading the newspaper, it would eventually help you even in the English comprehension aspect as well for the CSAT, and it can improve your vocabulary also. And uh, I think reading the newspaper also helps you to form your own arguments, which eventually would help you in the answer writing as well. So I would say that you should read the newspaper and make the notes out of it, and that would help you in your current affairs immensely.
Okay. Dhruv, practice is very important when it comes to prelims stage. How many mocks one should give? And when should one stop giving mocks?
I think it's a very personalized decision, and it all depends the kind of preparation that a aspirant has. However, I do feel that there are students who say that okay, क्या हमें 70-80 पेपर्स लगाने चाहिए, I think that won't make a lot of difference. What you need to do is that take 9 to 10 good papers that you have, solve them, and understand that where your weaknesses are. 9 or 10 can be a different number for somebody else, but you should give mocks till the time you do not feel confident that if I am seeing a question, I am able to answer it, I am able to understand the logic behind it, and if you are making a mistake, you should go and read about that. But you should give mocks after you have solved your PYQs, because PYQs, they are the most important thing, and after you are done with that, then you should give mocks. And even in mocks, I would say that a lot of people make this mistake that they do not give it in the time frame of UPSC itself. So you should give mocks in the same time in which we would give our actual prelims, because the problem is that अगर आपका जो mindset है अगर वो 9:30 to 11:30 वाले में नहीं बैठा है, so when you are giving your real prelims you will not be able to concentrate. आपका जो mind है वो 100% efficiency पे काम नहीं करेगा, and that can impact your performance. If you are giving mocks, you should give in the same time of that same time period, and then check those mocks and understand your weaknesses and then revise your basic stuff. I think that should be good enough.
So Dhruv, students have this doubt in their mind that where should they stop attempting question in the real paper? They are always in dilemma that either more is good or one should go for pinpointed accuracy. So what was your strategy regarding this?
For me, the idea was that after practicing many mocks, I came up at a magic number that I want to solve 88 questions. Because in every paper, even in the actual prelims, there are certain questions which you won't have any idea about. So instead of having a blind guess about it, I think it's better if you actually leave them. So after practicing for many mocks, for me that number came out to be 88. However, one should not be very rigid with this number. For example, in the 2023 attempt, what I saw was that because the paper was a bit random, the options were very different. So in that paper, when I did my 88 questions, I was not very confident that whether I'll be able to clear the cutoff or not. So at that particular time, I took a decision that if there are certain questions where I'm only able to eliminate even one option, I will attempt that question, because I still have a probability to get that question correct. So in the end, I attempted around 92 questions in my 2023 attempt. So at the end of the day, for the aspirants, it's important that when you practice your mocks, it would help you to come up at a certain number where you can decide that, okay, I will only solve these many questions, but you should not be very, very rigid with it, because the pattern of the paper is changing. And you have to be, I think, flexible enough to understand that, okay, if I need to solve maybe one or two more questions which can help me to clear the cutoff, I think you should definitely do it. But even in the actual prelims, in my personal experience, there would only be around 30-40 questions where you will be absolutely sure that, okay, ये questions मेरे सही हो सकते हैं. But there are many questions where you are only able to, let's say, arrive at maybe two options. So I think that you have to take a risk and you have to solve those questions and you have to mark those, because eventually, even if you are able to eliminate two options, there is a 50% chance that you will be able to get that question correct. So that is something which is, I think, a very personalized thing for each and every aspirant. But I do feel that after solving mocks, you will be able to come up at a number which is close to 88-90 only. That the actual number of questions that you should solve in the real prelims.
So Dhruv, many students will be giving this year prelims 2024, and there are certain high yielding areas which we find only in prelims examination. We don't find those areas repeated in mains examination. So did you strategize certain high yielding areas in the prelims that these are the areas where I'm going to focus more this time?
So if we look at prelims paper, there are around 30-40 questions which are from the basic sources, which I think in those questions your efficiency should be more than 90%. You should get most of those questions correct, and those are generally from polity, geography, modern Indian history, and they can actually help you to get those questions correct. So I would say that people who are going to attempt prelims this year, I think now is the time when you should be looking at your PYQs. You should be practicing for your CSAT. Again, from the PYQs only, I would suggest. And at the end of the day, if you feel like you want to give mocks, but in the same time frame and in the same time period in which you will be giving your actual prelims. And now, because only I think around one month is left, I think it's very important that now people who are night owls like I used to be, it's important that now you should correct your sleeping cycle as well. You should become a person who sleeps at around 11, 12, wake up at 7, so that in your real prelims you are able to concentrate and you are at your 100% in those 2 hours when you have to give your exam.
So Dhruv, once prelims is over, generally students go in the mode that they go for checking various answers and they are in the dilemma that whether they will be say this side or other side of the fence. So you might also have faced this. How did you come out of it and what was your plan for mains?
For me, it was that in my 2022 and 23 attempt, I did not check my answers. I left it to God. कि आपके ऊपर है. It's your choice अगर आपको कराना है, because I have given my best, and I think that eventually helped me, because we see every year there is a certain amount of variation which happens in the real answer keys and the answer keys which we get just after prelims. So my own suggestion would be that it's better that you do not look at your prelims paper once you have done it. You should not check it, because then it would be, because let's say if you are at the borderline, if you feel like that you have only got 90-92 marks, you are going to waste your the next 10-12 days which you could have actually used for your mains preparation. So I would suggest that once you have given your prelims, take a rest for 1 or 2 days and then start strategizing about your mains. Start strategizing about ethics, your optional, because you have to give time for your optional. It would take the maximum amount of time. And I think that is how I did in my 2022 and 23 attempt. And I think it eventually helped me, because I did not waste those 10-15 days which I would have if I would have checked my answers.
Dhruv, in mains examination, answer writing is very important. And giving mocks is also important. So how did you plan your answer writing?
For answer writing, I was clear enough that I had to begin my answer writing even before prelims. It cannot be like that once your prelims is done, उसके बाद फिर आप अपनी answer writing शुरू कर रहे हैं. So before prelims, what I used to do was that I used to just write 2 answers every day, and 2 answers won't take more than 10 to 15 minutes. You can take out that time and you can write 2 answers every day for GS and maybe 2 answers for your optional. And that is how you should do, because before prelims आपके ऊपर इतना pressure नहीं होता है, and you can easily at least get into that mode of acclimatization that I am writing the answer. And after you are done with your prelims, I would say that those 2 answers can become 5 answers every day, and eventually it would become that you are writing 20 answers in one sitting, giving your mock tests. And obviously mocks are very important for mains, and especially to get into that habit of answer writing, to think in those 7 minutes and also write, and that eventually would help you to write good answers.
Yes, this is a very good practice that you must start answer writing in the prelim stage itself. You don't need to wait that before prelims itself, that you need not to wait that mera hoga ya nahi hoga, and then you go and start writing answer, and by that time it's too late to start.
Because अगर हम इस बार का देखें, so इस बार and even the next year also, now because we have the calendar, there are only 3 months between prelims and the actual mains when it is starting. So this time prelims is I think on 16th of June, and result would come maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. So if you would wait for that particular period, you would only have 2.5 months. And in 2.5 months, yes, people do write a lot of answers, but if you have a practice before prelims, अगर आपने अपनी practice start कर रखी है, so at least आपका एक वो mindset बन जाता है, because it's a very different ball game when you think about mains, because you have to, in 7 minutes you have to even think and you have to write the answer,
and that too in the best possible manner,
and that in the best possible manner. So that takes a lot of physical effort also, mental effort also. So I think my suggestion would be, even for people who are starting their preparation now, is that once you are done with the subject, you should start answer writing, maybe 1 or 2 answers every day. It won't take a lot of time. But once you are over that inertia, बिकॉज स्टार्टिंग में सबको इनर्शिया होता है, मुझे भी था कि नहीं हम लोग पहले पूरा अच्छे से पढ़ लेंगे, हम लोग रिवाइज कर लेंगे, उसके बाद वी विल स्टार्ट आंसर राइटिंग. आई थिंक द परफेक्ट टाइम वोंट कम. यू हैव टू स्टार्ट व्हेन यू हैव रेड योर सब्जेक्ट, बिकॉज योर फर्स्ट आंसर जो होगा दैट वुड बी वन ऑफ द वर्स्ट आंसर्स विच यू हैव रिटन, बट ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम you will only improve.
And generally what students do is they compare their first answer with the best answers of the toppers, and they feel rejected, and they lose that hope that हमसे नहीं हो पाएगा या हम अच्छा नहीं लिख पाएंगे. Actually this is not the right way to approach answer writing. It's a gradual and evolution. It evolves with time.
The problem is that जो aspirants है वो ये नहीं देखते कि जो आज टॉपर है उसने भी कभी पहले अपना फर्स्ट आंसर लिखा होगा, एंड उन्होंने भी ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम अपने आप को इम्प्रूव किया. इट्स नॉट एज इफ कि उनका फर्स्ट आंसर ही उनका बेस्ट आंसर था. एंड वॉट वी आर, हम जो टॉपर्स आंसर स्क्रिप्ट जो हम देखते हैं, nobody knows how much effort they have put into it.
Because that is the best of their answer, right?
That is the best. It has an effort of maybe 1.5 years, 2 years that they have written answers, and then they are able to produce those answers.
Exactly. So Dhruv, how did you strategize various papers like GS paper 1, 2, 3 and 4, specifically GS paper 4, where you can score better? In essay and GS paper 4, if you put more effort, you can score better. In GS paper 4, you'll have 125 marks of case studies. So did you strategize those case studies beforehand?
There is always, like, I used to look at the answer scripts of Anudeep Durishetty sir, and I have seen, and he has actually given a framework that how you can start your answer, how you can write the different dimensions, and how you can end your answer. And I think that's a very good way of writing the answer. Regarding the ethics paper, I think we have a very crystal clear syllabus about it, that there are the points which are given, there are certain foundational values which are given, and everybody says that okay, you should prepare the definitions of those values beforehand. I would say that yes, you should do it, and apart from this, you should create your own examples for ethics. Ethics may, everybody is almost reading the same stuff. The only difference that you can bring is through your examples, through the value addition that you can do.
Your unique personality.
Yes, and that can come from when you are reading the newspaper. Because in newspaper you can actually get, let's say for example, you have there is something happening in the international politics, and you have read about a particular leader, and you can understand, okay, this is similar to the foundational value which I have read, and you can actually quote that, and that would give you that extra edge which would eventually help you to score good marks.
And that would eventually highlight the practical aspects of the ethics also.
Because there are people there are examples in the notes which a lot of people share. Now, if everyone is writing the same example, there is that 0.5% extra.
That spark is missing somewhere, because the examiner is seeing those examples from the very beginning itself, from the checking itself.
So you have to look at the newspaper, and that would eventually help you to get that extra edge.
So Dhruv, essay is also one of the most important paper in UPSC, and generally students find it very difficult to handle philosophical essays, and you might also have faced the same difficulty. How did you approach philosophical essays?
I think the first and the most important point is that you are able to decipher what exactly essay is trying to say. So if I can give you my example, in my 2022 attempt, in one of the essays, I did not decipher it properly. I actually interpreted the essay in a wrong manner, and that eventually led to me writing an essay which was, I would say, incorrect, and that reflected in my marks also.
It was not related to the topic which was asked.
So the first and the most important point is that are you able to understand that what that particular quotation is trying to say? And for that, now what we can do is that there are I think I would say that the new aspirants, they can actually use Chat GPT in that. So what they can do is that you take that particular quote, you first think on your own, okay, this is my interpretation, I think that it should be like this, these are the dimensions which we have, and then you can use that particular quote. Either you can Google it and really understand that what the exact meaning was, or you can actually go to ChatGPT and you can say that, okay, you give me an essay of 1,000 words, and it would actually give you a content, not exactly the UPSC type of content, but it can help you to understand that, okay, there are different dimensions which are there which you can use, and that can help the aspirant understand that whether I'm deciphering the topic correctly or not.
And this is the most important part
Yes.
in writing essay, because generally we're able to connect to various dimensions. But if we don't understand the core demand of the topic itself, then somewhere we'll be writing things which are not relevant to the topic.
Absolutely, and that would eventually lead that you are not getting good marks in essay.
Yes, very good. So Dhruv, what was your strategy related to GS paper 3?
GS3 mein, if you actually look at it, so it's a very dynamic subject because there are so many topics and from different backgrounds, so you have to read. So it has a lot of dynamic element attached to it. For GS3, the first thing that everyone should do is that, again, look at the PYQs, because there are certain themes which are repeated again and again, specifically in subjects like security and even in disaster management. The one thing that I did in my 2023 attempt for GS3 was that I read the economic survey, and not just the summary of it, but the entire economic survey. And if somebody would actually look at it, and they would actually find that the topics in the economic survey, like in this year, it was divided in environment, there was climate change, there was infrastructure, there was agriculture, and then there was social sector. And if you look at our syllabus, a lot of things are actually overlapping. So if you read the economic survey completely, I mean, if you have time, I think you should read it completely, because it won't take more than 10 to 12 days to read it. So if you read the economic survey, it would actually make your answers much more dynamic and much more relevant. So GS3 ke liye I did this thing different, that I read the economic survey completely, and apart from this, I used to practice questions. And if you're not able to write all the questions while you are practicing, one of my mentors actually told me that what you can do is that you look at the questions and you think about it. You think, and maybe you can write about that, okay, ye mera intro hoga, ye mera conclusion hoga, ye mere different dimensions honge. And because the more the number of questions that you will solve, maybe not write completely, but even if you will solve it, it will give you the ideas, and it would help you to write good answers.
And it will accustom your brain also according to the demand of the exam. So you'll be able to get those facts in the right amount of time in the examination hall.
And one more thing, like economic survey जो last year का था, it not only helped in mains but also in prelims. So there was this one question about, I think it was about some cobalt and where it is found the maximum, and I actually read that in the economic survey. So economic survey can help you not only in prelims but also in mains, and maybe even in your interview if that is there. So if you have time, because every year it comes in the end of January. I think this year it would come after June. So you might not have a lot of time. But for the people who are appearing next year, I would suggest that you should try and read the economic survey completely, and it would immensely help you.
Yes, this year's economic survey they can read for the main stage.
For the mains, but because it would come in the month of June, you won't have that much of time to read completely. But for next year, I think you should definitely read it. It would help you a lot.
So Dhruv, you had public administration as your optional subject. Generally, students are confused that which optional subject one should take, and they have this bias in their mind that these specific subjects are low scoring subjects and these are high scoring subjects. Since you don't have a background in an optional which is stated in the UPSC list, so how did you decide your optional subject? And what would be your advice to the students who are still in the dilemma that these optionals are high scoring and these are low scoring, and what should be the criteria for them?
First, about the dilemma aspect. If we actually look at the UPSC report, we would actually find that all the major optionals where there are people more than 100 sitting, we would see that the success ratio and the success percentage of the people who get recommended are almost the same. For public administration, it's like close to 8%. Anthropology also, it's like close to 8 to 8.5%. Sociology also on the similar lines. So I think people are getting selected from all kinds of optionals. It's not as if that there is only one particular optional where people are getting selected. Secondly, about how to choose an optional, for me, as you said, that I did not there was no background for me when it came to choosing the optional, because my basic graduation was in computer science. So at that time for me it was like I looked at the syllabus, and one thing which I found, that where I can find the maximum amount of overlapping with the other syllabus and the kind of material that is available for me. So that actually helped me to take a decision, and I decided that okay, public administration as an optional, it has a lot of overlapping with GS4, with GS2, and also with I think GS1 also, like a little bit, not much, but it can actually help me to prepare all these subjects together. And there was a ready material available for that, and that's why I chose that okay, I should go for public administration. For people who want to choose, again I would say that look at the syllabus, look at the material that is available, and if you feel like that, if you are reading a particular subject and if you find that okay, it is interesting and I can read this particular subject for the next 2 years, because see, we have to understand that optional will take the maximum amount of your time, especially when you are preparing for your mains. So you should be absolutely clear with the kind of subject that you want to choose if you have interest in it, because then only you will be able to perform good into it. I think that is one of the basic criteria that one should have before choosing an optional. And regarding the selection, as I've said, that there are selections from each and every optional. People from all the optionals are getting selected, and there is a good success ratio for all the major optionals that we have.
So Dhruv, after prelims, you wrote mains and then you got an interview call. So when was your interview scheduled?
It was on the second last day, on the 8th of April.
So you had good time to prepare for the interview.
I had to wait a lot.
Yes, and while waiting at that point of time, what was your strategies for interview preparation?
The strategy was very simple, that I I had to read a lot about the important keywords that were there in my DAF. Because I've lived in a lot of cities, I have to read about them. My hobbies, you have to be clear about that, why you have chosen those hobbies and how they can help you in, if you are into the administration, how those hobbies can actually help you in your professional life also. And apart from this, talking to mentors, talking to people who are also selected, talking to people who are in my peer group, I think that is the basic strategy that one can actually apply when preparing for interviews.
So Dhruv, you were sitting in the UPSC hall and your turn was to be called. What was going on in your mind?
I think at that particular time I was only thinking that, number one, I should not fumble when I'm giving my answers. The other thing was that I was confident enough that I had done whatever I could, and whatever would happen after this, it's I would not think about it, and it's just into the hand of the gods, and whatever is there in my fate, it would eventually happen with me. So for me at that time, I just tried to calm myself down. I took a little deep breaths, and I just said that okay, jo hoga dekha jayega.
So you went with the flow.
Yes, absolutely.
So Dhruv, since this was a long journey for you, did you had any plan B in your mind?
Because I come from a research background, maybe I could have tried for a PhD after that. Uh, because now I also have a lot of experience in this UPSC journey, where uh, I have read a lot. So maybe I could have mentored a lot of students who are budding aspirants. But when I was preparing, my aim was that I have to first of all give my ultimate focus to this exam, not think about the result, or as much as try not to think about the result, and then see how it goes. That's it.
So Dhruv, this was a very long journey for you. So in this journey, you saw many failures also. How did you cope up with those failures? Was there any stress management techniques that you were using?
I think failures, they are not very easy to handle. people say that okay, you have come up to this particular level, you have gained, but कहीं ना कहीं मन में ये होता है कि नहीं, we want to see our name in the list. And when you are not able to clear the first two stages for consecutive years, I think there is a certain amount of pressure that actually gets onto you. So to handle failures, I think the most important thing is that you should have a very important group around you. You should have a support group, and your parents and your family actually plays a very important role, because they are the one who are closest to you, who handle you, who talk to you about कि टेंशन नहीं लेनी, जो है देखा जाएगा, हम लोग साथ में करेंगे, कोई उसमें नहीं था. आई थिंक एक फैमिली का सपोर्ट जो होता है, दैट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग टू हैंडल योर फेलियर्स. The second thing is that you should have a good peer group, people who are there to support you. And regarding my journey, I actually looked at my multiple attempts in a way that whether I'm improving or not. So from my first attempt to my second attempt in 2021, I realized that yes, I have improved my prelims marks. So that was a sense of motivation for me that okay, I am in the right direction. In my 2022 attempt, I was able to clear prelims, but I was not able to clear mains. So again, that gave me the motivation that I am on the right path, and that eventually helped me to take one more chance in 2020 in the next attempt, and then I was able to clear it. So whenever you face the failure, it's important that you have a very sound support group around you. And once your emotions subside down, because the first time when you don't see your name in the list or you don't see your roll number, those first 5-10 seconds, it's like a very, you're not able to first believe. And even after 4-5 days, you always go and look back into the list कि क्या पता गलती से मेरा नाम अब इसमें आ जाए.
You're still in a state of shock.
Yes. And at that time, you are the most vulnerable emotionally. And that's why you should talk to your parents, you should talk to your friends. Don't take any random decision at that particular point of time that कि नहीं, मेरे को अब ये छोड़नी है, मेरे को ये नहीं करना, मेरे को वो करना है. Take 2 or 3 days break. If you want to cry out loud, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. Talk to your friends, talk to your peer group, and then take a decision. And then you actually look at it कि okay, कहाँ पे गलती हुई, कहाँ पे I can improve upon, कहाँ पे I can work much more hard, and then you move ahead. And again, you have to, I after many attempts, I realized that your hard work can only take you from 0 to 99. That one last jump, that is always your fate, that is always your luck. So sometimes even after giving your best, if you see that you are not able to clear it, maybe that is not in our fate. Because I have been on that side and I have realized that maybe जो हुआ अच्छे के लिए हुआ था. But at that time, you have to be careful, you have to be near your support group to manage that failure.
Generally, students go in isolation mode. They think that if they'll be isolated, cut out from the society, they'll be more productive. But generally, this doesn't happen. They go into a zone where they are bounded by some negative thoughts. So I think your strategy is good, that we should come out of our zones and interact with the people, with the peer group, and we should have emotional buffers with us, because handling with stress is one of the most important trait that UPSC check. So related to stress handling, does hobbies helped you?
Hobbies, yes, because वो आपका एक free time होता है, that is your me time, when you can actually take away your attention from आप, क्योंकि when you are studying 6 to 7 hours every day, you need to have a release time where you are not thinking about okay, मुझे अब ये लक्ष्मीकांत पढ़नी है, मेरे को ये पढ़ना है. That is a time when you are doing the thing which gives you that sense of happiness also. So your hobbies can actually play a very important role to keep your mind healthy, to keep your mood healthy, and it can also help you to take away your mind away from, if things are not going good in your academics, they can actually help you. And if you have hobbies like, let's say, playing or something, so it would not only improve your physical health but also your mental health. Because in this exam, I think that I think it's a very normal thing that जब भी हमें stress आता है, pressure आता है, the first thing that we take for granted is our health. And in this exam also, because we have to sit for so long, we have to study, we have to apply our mind, the first thing that we take for granted is our health, our both physical as well as mental health. And our hobbies, in a way, that can actually help us to improve on both these things and eventually help us to concentrate better and prevent that burnout which can happen अगर आप सिर्फ if 24/7 you are thinking about कि नहीं अच्छा मुझे अब ये चीज़ पढ़नी है, ये चीज़ करनी है, ये चीज़ करनी है. So I think that diversion from your studies can actually, and your hobbies can actually help that in doing that.
Many of the students were not able to make up the list this year. What will be your advice to them?
I think I have no advice for them because I have always felt that people who gave the interview, and not just interview, people who have cleared prelims also, they have worked hard. Everyone has worked hard. Luckily, my name was there when that list came out, but people, those 1900 who did not make to the list, I think they were also equally deserving. Again, I would say that 0 to 99, your effort can take you. That 1%, maybe people who are on the right side of the list, they were maybe lucky more. They had their luck on their side. And people who were not, they have also worked equally hard. They are also equally deserving. But maybe that 1%, that one last push that you can get through your luck, maybe it was not there. I would just say them that you are amongst the top people who have appeared for this exam. You have the knowledge, you have the capability, and if you feel that you want to give one more time, it's your choice, you should give. But in no ways people who are on this side also of the list and on the other side, all of them are deserving. All of them have put the equal amount of hard work.
And last bit of advice for the students who are preparing for UPSC 2024 prelims.
I would say solve PYQs. If you want to solve mock tests, do it in the same time period as the UPSC. Correct your sleeping cycle, correct your eating habits, and relax as much as you can. I know one night before the exam नींद नहीं आती है. It's very difficult because आपके दिमाग में बहुत सारी चीज़ें चल रही होती हैं. At that time, it's important कि आप just close your eyes, relax, and that's it. I think more than that, and then just trust your preparation, trust your hard work, and then leave the rest to God. He would take care of it.
Thank you, Dhruv, for such an insightful session. Thank you, viewers, for watching this session. Hope you have learned valuable lessons from Dhruv's journey. You can integrate those lessons in your journey and make your own destination. Thank you.